Picture this. A successful black businesswoman running a flourishing eatery goes undercover as serving staff to get an inside look at her team and daily operations. During one hectic night, she faces public degradation from an arrogant white customer who only sees a lowly server standing before him. Little does he know, he's just insulted the very person he should never have dared to cross. It was a balmy Saturday night in Charleston, South Carolina, where amber light streamed through the expansive windows of Magnolia Table, a cherished Southern cuisine establishment nestled among weathered brick buildings and old stone pathways. The aroma of fresh-baked cornbread and herb-crusted chicken drifted through the space, blending with gentle jazz melodies flowing from a vintage speaker in the corner. Every detail of the restaurant, from the gleaming hardwood floors to the delicate magnolia flowers displayed in glass mason jars at every table, seemed to honor tradition, strength, and authentic Southern welcome. Along the bar, mounted photographs of happy diners and framed newspaper articles told the story of an establishment that had evolved beyond mere dining. It had transformed into a haven of respect, particularly for those who had been long overlooked. At the heart of this scene stood Maya Green, dressed in a pristine white blouse, dark apron, and comfortable flat shoes. Maya navigated the space with the practiced grace of someone who understood her restaurant's pulse as intimately as her own heartbeat. Her hair was pulled back neatly, and her expression carried the warmth yet watchfulness of someone skilled at quickly assessing others. To anyone watching casually, she appeared to be simply another server. However, Maya Green was anything but typical. She was Magnolia Table's creator and proprietor. Despite having earned the privilege to manage from behind a desk or oversee from a distance, she regularly chose to work the dining floor. Monthly, she would don the server's uniform to remain connected, to witness how her establishment truly functioned when her identity remained hidden. She held firm to the belief that authority without humility was meaningless. Tonight was another evening she decided to serve anonymously. The kitchen operated at full capacity, grills crackling, fryers bubbling, and order tickets printing in rapid succession like celebration streamers. Luis, the executive chef, skillfully sliced a prime cut, perspiration beading on his forehead, while his sous chef behind him carefully arranged shrimp over creamy grits. Maya stepped inside, reviewed the order slip for table 14. A medium rare, steak accompanied by mashed potatoes and collard greens, and noted the time. More than 15 minutes had elapsed. She gathered a tray of water glasses and made her way out. Table 14 sat positioned beside the large windows, where dusk cast the seated figures in striking silhouette. Commanding the table was an elderly white gentleman, flawlessly attired in an expensive sport coat and pressed dress shirt. His navy necktie was tied with precision, silver hair swept back immaculately, and a luxury timepiece caught the light on his wrist as he drummed his fingers impatiently on the tablecloth. Charles Calloway, a semi-retired financial advisor, recognized, locally for both his wealth and his sharp tongue, dined with two companions, another well-dressed pair. Yet Calloway clearly dominated the group dynamic. As Maya drew near, he examined her from head to toe, not with interest, but with the barely concealed disdain of someone who regarded service workers as less than human. "We placed our order almost 20 minutes ago," he snapped before she could utter a word. "Do you people actually serve meals or just beverages?" His tone was deliberately loud, designed to draw attention from surrounding tables. Maya, remaining composed, smiled politely and responded softly, "I'm sorry about the wait, sir. The kitchen is running a bit behind, but your food should be ready very soon." She began carefully setting the glasses around the table with steady hands. Calloway laughed coldly and settled back in his chair. "What a shock," he remarked to his table-mates. "Hire some random waitress off the street. This is the result you get. Service this poor makes you wish you'd brought your own meal." Several nearby guests shifted uncomfortably, their attention drawn to the table as they sensed the venom in his comments. Maya completed her task and nodded again, prepared to walk away and let the man's hostility roll off her like water off a roof. But Calloway wasn't finished. "I've experienced better treatment at roadside diners," he declared loudly, as though offering entertainment to the entire restaurant. Maya felt the insult, not to her ego, but to basic fairness. Still, her expression stayed calm. She chose not to respond. Years of experience had taught her that true authority doesn't need to shout. In the quiet moment that followed, Maya turned slightly toward a nearby staff member. "Emily, would you mind bringing Mr. Calloway's entree? I think it's prepared now." The young woman nodded quickly and hurried away. Maya faced the table again, now wearing a more serene, almost gracious expression. "We'll take care of your bill this evening," she said, "though I hope you take away more than just a satisfied appetite." Her meaning was crystal clear. She wasn't attempting to embarrass him, simply ensuring this moment, however awkward, would stay with him permanently. As Maya headed back toward the kitchen, spontaneous applause began to spread, not boisterous or showy, but genuine. It started with a woman of middle age seated by the fireplace and gradually expanded as others participated. Calloway stayed frozen in place, his face burning with shame. His hands, previously resting confidently on the white linen, now nervously twisted his napkin's edge. His dinner companions avoided eye contact. The man who had entered with such arrogance now seemed to shrink beneath the restaurant's warm lighting. Beyond the kitchen's swinging doors, Maya released a slow breath. The confrontation had ended, but its impact still weighed on her like heat radiating from a fresh-cooked dish. Luis approached with a knowing smile. "That was really something," he said. "You holding up okay?" Maya nodded. "I'm all right," she answered. "But I didn't act to create drama. I did it because that type of conduct, when ignored, becomes acceptable, and we cannot allow it to become acceptable." She settled briefly in the back office, massaging her temples. Her thoughts drifted to Magnolia Table's beginning, when she had worked through countless sleepless nights, perfecting collard greens and biscuits using her mother's treasured recipes, when a single negative review could destroy everything. Back then, she had personally cleaned every surface and wept privately in the walk-in cooler after enduring comments she lacked the authority to challenge. Tonight felt different. She now possessed the keys. She controlled the narrative. Out in the main dining area, normalcy gradually returned. Dishes were served. Conversations resumed, though with heightened awareness. Some diners whispered among themselves, recounting what they'd just witnessed. Others ate quietly, occasionally glancing toward the woman who had transformed a simple moment of dignity into something powerful. An elderly gentleman rose from his seat and approached the kitchen, politely asking a busser if he could speak with the lady who took a stand. When Maya was summoned and met him at the service entrance, he touched his hat respectfully and said, "My granddaughter works as a server in Atlanta. Tonight, you defended her as well." Maya smiled warmly. "Tell her to persevere. We all support each other forward, even without realizing it." Later, as the evening shift concluded, Maya assembled her team for a brief gathering in the staff area. They formed a half-circle around her, their faces showing mixtures of pride and uncertainty. "I realized tonight was overwhelming," she began. "I hadn't planned for that situation, but sometimes circumstances present themselves, and we must choose who we are within them." She paused, connecting with the youngest server's eyes. "You're not here merely to take orders. You're here to discover what it means to carry yourselves with dignity. That strength doesn't always involve yelling or fighting back. Sometimes it means keeping your head high when someone tries to lower it." Several nodded thoughtfully. A young man, barely 19, whispered, "I've never witnessed anything like that." Maya chuckled gently. "Neither had I. But perhaps that's the issue. Maybe we should witness it more often." When the final customer departed and the lights dimmed, Maya stood alone momentarily at table 14. The napkins lay crumpled, the partially empty wine glasses reflecting the dimmed wall sconces like weary stars. She reached down and retrieved the signed check. A generous tip had been added, though she recognized it wasn't remorse, merely habit, a financial gesture meant to smooth over discomfort. She folded the paper and tucked it away, not for the money, but as a reminder that demanded respect carries its own cost. Walking toward the entrance, Maya glanced once more at the hand-painted message above the exit. "Come hungry, leave whole." Her mother had spoken those words after feeding neighbors during a hurricane with nothing but rice, canned vegetables, and abundant dignity. Maya believed in that philosophy more deeply than ever. She switched off the final light, secured the door, and stepped into the night, not merely as a restaurant proprietor, but as a woman who had quietly redefined what strength could mean in a dark blazer and with a steady voice. The morning following the confrontation at Magnolia Table, the restaurant sat peacefully under Charleston's gentle sunrise. Light streamed through the same tall windows that had witnessed the previous evening's tension 12 hours earlier. The dining room, now vacant and freshly cleaned, carried faint scents of citrus cleaner and warm corn muffins from the prep team already busy in the kitchen. Everything appeared calm again, yet Maya Green sensed that last night's events had already begun creating waves. She noticed it in her staff's careful glances as they arrived early, in her phone's silent buzzing with unanswered calls and messages, and in the envelope someone had slipped beneath the door overnight, a simple white one addressed to the woman who reminded me of who I once was. Inside was an unsigned note that read, "I was once dignified. I lost my way. Thank you." Accompanying it were 2 wrinkled $50 bills. Maya didn't dwell on the letter. She folded it once, placed it in her jacket pocket, and began her standard opening procedures, reviewing supplies, inspecting the kitchen line, greeting each employee personally. But something in the atmosphere had changed. Even the way junior servers acknowledged her felt different, not with fear or wonder, but something deeper. Respect combined with protective admiration, as though she wasn't merely their supervisor now, but someone who had proven she would support them through adversity. News spread more quickly than anticipated. By midday, a woman in her 70s arrived with her church group and approached Maya privately, her voice gentle yet determined. "I raised my daughter to speak kindly, but she lost a hotel job once for confronting someone like that man. What you accomplished, that mattered." Maya simply nodded, her heart full yet composed. She didn't seek recognition. She valued the quiet confirmation that her actions had created impact beyond one meal or one person's wounded pride. Meanwhile, Calloway hadn't returned to the establishment. His absence didn't escape notice. Some gossiped about him throughout the community. Others dismissed the entire incident as overblown. But for every skeptical voice, 5 more had viewed the footage, captured discreetly by a teenager in the restaurant's back corner. It began circulating on regional social media with captions like, "She didn't shout, she didn't make threats, she simply held her position." Maya hadn't seen the video yet. She didn't need to. She had lived the experience. 3 days later, a formal letter arrived, sealed and typed. It came from Calloway. No justifications, just brief acknowledgement. "Miss Green, I spoke carelessly. I behaved without decency. I judged without understanding. For this I apologize. May your establishment continue being what I failed to recognize. It already was. Remarkable." No mention of returning, no offer of compensation. Maya read it once, gently placed it in her desk drawer, and continued her day. But the story didn't end with apologies. A week later, a local television reporter requested an interview. Maya politely declined. This wasn't about publicity. She didn't want Magnolia Table to become a symbol of controversy. She wanted it to remain what it was always intended to be, a place where people could gather, share meals, and leave their troubles behind. Still, the community took notice. Reservations increased. More patrons visited, not for spectacle, but because they wanted to participate in something authentic and meaningful. Couples returned with their children, explaining, "We want them to witness what composure under pressure looks like." Others brought elderly parents, sharing stories about their own hospitality industry struggles from years past, when dignity had to be swallowed daily like bitter medicine at shift's end. One evening, as Maya worked the floor during a busy dinner service, a child no older than 10 looked up from her table and asked, "Are you the woman from the video? My mother says you're courageous." Maya knelt beside her and smiled, gently brushing a stray curl from the girl's face. "I simply did what seemed right," she said softly. "Being courageous means knowing when to stand firm, even when others try to move you." The girl nodded, then returned to her plate of fried chicken and mac and cheese, clearly satisfied with the explanation. As weeks passed, Magnolia Table found its new rhythm. Staff members carried themselves with increased confidence. Customers engaged with additional warmth. Even the decor seemed to gleam brighter, as if the walls themselves had absorbed the dignity that had played out within them. Maya understood she hadn't transformed the world, but perhaps she had shifted some perspectives, and for her that was sufficient. Late one evening, long after the last guest had departed, Maya lingered in the dining room. She personally cleaned each table as she had during the early days, not from necessity, but because the routine centered her. She paused at table 14, running her fingers along the wood's grain. So much had transpired here, spoken and unspoken words alike. She sat in the same chair Calloway had occupied and allowed herself to breathe deeply. Not from tiredness, but from relief. She retrieved a small journal from her bag, a leather-bound notebook filled with stories, quotes, and lessons collected over the years. On the next empty page, she wrote, "Dignity doesn't need to raise its voice. It simply refuses to be diminished." Then, she closed the book, returned it to her bag, and stood. From the kitchen, Luis emerged carrying 2 takeaway cups. He offered her one. "You looked like you could use this," he said with a weary grin. "Hot chocolate, prepared just how you like it." She smiled, accepted the cup, and gently tapped it against his. "To the quiet ones," she said, "the ones who still transform everything." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, 2 people connected not by hierarchy, but by shared purpose, and in that silence there was tranquility, not because the outside world had changed, but because they had chosen to remain steady within it. Maya walked him to the door, watched him drive away, then extinguished the final light. As she stepped outside, the air carried scents of approaching rain and blooming honeysuckle. She pulled her blazer closer around her shoulders, gazed up at the stars, and whispered a quiet promise to herself. "As long as this place is mine, no one will ever be diminished within these walls." She locked the door and walked home, her footsteps echoing softly on the pavement, carrying the weight of a story that didn't conclude with applause or controversy, but with determination, a quiet, unshakable determination to lead with grace, protect what mattered, and remind the world in her own steady way that the most powerful voices don't always shout. Sometimes they simply stand firm.